We have trained advanced AIs to create two intellectual thinkers. One is pro-Bible and another is skeptic. We put them in a debate to discuss on why I choose to believe the Bible. To make things more interesting, we added 5 AI models to score their arguments as judges. Let's start by asking a question fast. If the Bible is just a book written by humans, why treat it like divine truth? Is it really the Word of God, or just ancient literature?
The Bible isn't just a book. It's a collection of writings spanning over 1,500 years by more than 40 authors, yet it tells a consistent narrative about humanity, morality, and a divine creator. That kind of unity across centuries and cultures suggests orchestration, not accident. No other historical document demonstrates this kind of literary cohesion and prophetic fulfillment. That points to divine influence, not mere human invention.
And yet, every religious book claims some form of divine influence. Consistency in narrative doesn't equal divine authorship. It can be the result of careful editing, selective inclusion, and cultural transmission. The Bible was compiled by councils, written in parts by people with agendas, and translated many times. Its human fingerprints are everywhere. The idea that it's divinely inspired isn't proof, it's a belief. And beliefs need evidence. The burden of proof lies on showing why this book, out of all ancient texts, is uniquely divine.
Fair, but here's where the Bible stands apart. Its authors often claimed they didn't understand the full meaning of their messages. In the book of Daniel, for instance, the writer says, "I heard, but I did not understand." That's not typical of human propaganda. It's more like receiving something outside oneself. Also, consider fulfilled prophecies. Isaiah foretells the rise of Cyrus, a Persian king, by name, 150 years before his birth. That level of accuracy in foretelling specific events isn't common in literature. It's not just storytelling. It's predictive. And that adds a layer of credibility to its divine claim.
The fulfilled prophecy argument is overstated. First, many so-called prophecies are vague, symbolic, or written after the events they supposedly predict. Scholars debate the actual dates of these writings, and even if written earlier, symbolic language can be reinterpreted post-event. As for people not understanding their own words, that happens in many texts. Poets and mystics often write beyond their conscious comprehension. It doesn't prove external divinity. It proves that human language and imagination can be complex. Extraordinary claims, like divine origin, require extraordinary evidence, not literary coincidence.
Let's talk about longevity. The Bible wasn't just influential. It survived empires, persecutions, and attempts to destroy it. The Roman Empire tried to erase it. Totalitarian regimes banned it. Yet it persists. Its preservation over millennia, with thousands of manuscript copies, many very close in accuracy, is statistically unmatched. That's not just human preservation. It speaks to something that wants to be known, a message that endures every attempt to silence it, maybe more than human noise.
Survival doesn't equal truth. Many ancient myths, like the Iliad or Hindu Vedas, have also survived millennia. Popularity and endurance are functions of culture, power, and politics. The Bible's survival was helped by empires adopting it, not just resisting it. Constantine's Rome, for example, institutionalized Christianity. It became dominant, not because of divine force, but because of historical momentum and political alignment. The idea of divine preservation feels like retrofitting purpose into survivability. Let's not confuse cultural success with cosmic authorship.
How can the Bible be perfect if it contains contradictions? Wouldn't a divine source be flawless?
Many of the so-called contradictions in the Bible dissolve when we consider historical, linguistic, and cultural backgrounds. The Bible spans over a millennium in writing, across different literary genres, poetry, law, prophecy, and narrative. Expecting it to read like a modern scientific manual is unfair. Its message is unified: the nature of God, human purpose, and redemption. That internal consistency across time is remarkable, and not the mark of a flawed document.
Or it's the mark of a human document edited to appear unified. Let's not confuse thematic cohesion with factual consistency. The Bible contains clear textual contradictions. In the Gospels, for example, the resurrection accounts vary on who visited the tomb, what they saw, and what time it happened. If divine perfection guided these words, why wouldn't the details match exactly? We would demand higher standards from a scientific paper. Shouldn't we demand at least that from a book claiming divine origin?
Here's the difference. The Bible isn't meant to be a science report. It's eyewitness testimony from different people and perspectives. Minor differences, like time of day or who was present, don't invalidate the core truth. The tomb was empty. In law, if every witness says the exact same thing, it's considered suspicious. Variation actually supports authenticity. The consistent core events across multiple accounts is stronger evidence than forced uniformity.
But we're not talking about minor variations. We're talking about doctrinal contradictions. The Old Testament says an eye for an eye. Jesus says, turn the other cheek. In Exodus, God is wrathful and commanding war. In the New Testament, he's loving and tells us to love our enemies. That's not complementary perspective. That's inconsistency in character. If the Bible is from the same perfect source, its moral message should not shift so drastically.
On the surface, it seems like a contradiction, but it's actually a progression. The Bible reveals God's nature in stages. The justice in the Old Testament was about establishing order in a brutal world. The New Testament introduces grace through Jesus. It's not inconsistency, it's development, like moving from basic arithmetic to calculus. Same subject, deeper revelation. If God is interacting with real people in real time, the unfolding story makes logical sense.
But partial validation isn't total validation. Yes, the Bible mentions real places and people. That proves it contains some historical references, not that it's divinely inspired or fully accurate. Take the Exodus, for example, a central biblical event. There's no archaeological evidence for millions of Israelites wandering in the desert for 40 years. That's not a minor gap. That's a major red flag. If key events aren't supported by data, we should question their historicity.
If parts of the Bible don't match science or history, why believe it's true? Shouldn't truth align with facts?
The Bible is not primarily a science textbook. It's a historical and theological document. That said, archaeology has confirmed hundreds of biblical sites, kings, and events. The existence of ancient cities like Jericho, Nineveh, and the reign of King David, once doubted, are now supported by findings. In fact, the more we dig, the more we validate the biblical record.
Let's talk science. The Bible describes a 6-day creation, the sun standing still, and even a global flood. These are not just scientifically improbable, they're impossible by today's understanding of physics, geology, and biology. If we were expected to believe the Bible is truth, it should align with observable reality. Miracles, by definition, are untestable. You can't build scientific credibility on stories that defy the very laws of science.
Absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. The Sinai Desert is massive, and 3,000 years of erosion, shifting sands, and limited access make comprehensive excavation impossible. Even secular archaeologists admit that the lack of evidence for an event in a specific region doesn't conclusively prove it never happened. And when it comes to historical timing, ancient records weren't time-stamped like Instagram posts. Minor dating gaps don't discredit the broader narrative that aligns with known ancient history.
Invoking metaphor after the fact is convenient. But if the Bible's language leads to constant reinterpretation, that's a weak foundation for truth. We expect clarity from divine communication, not ambiguity. Science thrives on predictability and testing. Faith doesn't. If an explanation requires suspending logic, physics, or evidence, it belongs in mythology, not in historical record. You can believe it if you choose, but belief doesn't make it fact.
And yet that's exactly the point. Miracles, by definition, transcend natural law. If God exists, why would he be limited to the systems he created? Also, the Bible often uses poetic or symbolic language, especially in Genesis. Many theologians interpret the days of creation as eras, not 24-hour periods. Science and faith aren't enemies. Many early scientists, like Kepler, Newton, and Faraday, were believers. They didn't see conflict. They saw discovery as a way to understand the Creator.
But the Bible also contains ethics that are clearly outdated or problematic by modern standards. It condones slavery, limits women's rights, and includes harsh punishments, even death for minor offenses. If a book reflects moral truths, those truths shouldn't need to be explained away or selectively followed. Morality should evolve, and thankfully it has, often in opposition to the Bible's literal instructions.
Is the Bible a guide for modern morality, or a relic of ancient times? Should we still follow its ethical code?
The Bible offers a consistent moral foundation that transcends time. Principles like loving your neighbor, caring for the poor, honesty, integrity, these values remain relevant regardless of culture or century. Without an absolute standard, morality becomes a matter of opinion. The Bible provides that unchanging anchor in a world full of shifting ethics.
Yet those same scriptures have been used to justify oppression, including slavery and segregation. If divine truth is so easily misused, maybe the problem is the source itself. A timeless moral code should be clear, universal, and beyond cultural misinterpretation. The Bible often reflects the biases of its authors more than the will of a perfect God.
Context is critical. Much of what appears troubling in the Bible was a significant step forward for its time. For example, biblical laws placed limits on slavery, which in ancient cultures was brutal and unrestricted. It wasn't endorsing injustice, it was regulating it in a flawed world. More importantly, Jesus' teachings elevated the moral bar. Love your enemies, forgive endlessly, protect the vulnerable. These aren't outdated. They're radical even today.
But we no longer need the Bible to be moral. Secular societies function with strong ethical systems grounded in reason, empathy, and law. Morality based on fear of divine punishment isn't true virtue, it's compliance. Real morality evolves as we understand each other better. The Bible's moral code was a product of its time. It may contain some wisdom, but it's not the final word on right and wrong.
Misuse of a message doesn't invalidate the message. People have twisted every good idea, science, democracy, medicine, for selfish purposes. The abuse of Scripture says more about human nature than divine revelation. And when you look at the overall moral arc of the Bible, it's about justice, mercy, humility, and love. Those ideals still inspire humanitarian work, civil rights movements, and personal transformation today.
Personal change doesn't prove objective truth. People transform through belief in all kinds of things: Islam, Buddhism, even self-help books, or astrology. Sincerity isn't the same as accuracy. What the Bible proves is that humans are wired for meaning. But we shouldn't confuse emotional impact with evidence. The placebo effect can be powerful, but it doesn't make the pill real.
If belief in the Bible transforms lives, does that prove it's true? Or can any belief create impact regardless of accuracy?
The Bible has transformed millions across cultures, centuries, and social classes. Its teachings offer hope, forgiveness, and inner peace. That level of global personal transformation isn't coincidence. It's evidence of truth in action.
Let's be honest, religion has also fueled wars, division, persecution, and colonization. The Bible has been cited to support both liberation and oppression. That kind of dual-use power suggests it's not uniquely divine, it's just influential. Impact is not always positive, and even when it is, the source doesn't have to be true, only persuasive. Influence doesn't equal authenticity.
Yet the Bible's impact isn't limited to personal lives. It's shaped entire nations. It influenced democracy, human rights, abolition of slavery, and modern law. Hospitals, schools, orphanages, many of these were started by believers inspired by biblical ethics. That's not just psychological, it's civilizational transformation. A false idea might change a life, but not the world for the better, over 2,000 years.
Or it comes from our capacity for meaning-making. Humans adapt powerful stories to find purpose. The Bible is one of many. It resonates deeply, but that's a psychological truth, not necessarily a cosmic one. Believe in the Bible if it brings value, but let's not confuse internal transformation with external verification. Stories can move us without being fact.
Influence can be neutral, but lasting, positive, global influence rooted in self-sacrifice, love, and justice points to more than just human imagination. The Bible doesn't merely comfort people, it challenges them. Forgive enemies, live humbly, give generously. That kind of transformation doesn't come from convenience. It comes from something deeper, possibly divine.
Or it's simply a shift in human thinking over centuries. The progression you mention mirrors how civilizations evolved morally. What you're calling revelation could just be cultural growth. People became less tribal, more empathetic, and their writings reflect that. The Bible tracks human ideas about God, not messages from God himself. If it truly came from a timeless, perfect being, it wouldn't need to evolve. It would have been consistent and flawless from the start.